Welcome to Bicycle Maintenance with a Fairly Average Mechanic, and the Fairly Average Mechanic is me. And today we're going to be looking at making adjustments to your front derailleur. Now, I have previously done a video on making adjustments to your rear derailleur, which you can find amongst my list of videos. It is more common for you to need to make adjustments to your rear derailleur than it is to your front derailleur, but sometimes you need to make adjustments to your front derailleur, so this is the video to watch. So come with me and let's go over to the bike. So here we have a front derailleur, and you can see the derailleur here where my trusty pointer is pointing. Here is the cable held in by this bolt here. And you can see the derailleur, the front derailleur runs along and down here. And this is a Shimano model. It's a Shimano 105. Now on this particular bike, the derailleur, which is here, is attached to this bracket, which is here. And this bracket is bolted to the seat tube, which is here, the white thing, by these two bolts, or these two bolts, which are here. And this bolt here is what attaches the derailleur to the bracket. Your derailleur may be attached to your seat tube in this way, or it may be attached by means of a metal band which is around the seat tube and is then tightened using a bolt. The first thing we need to check with our front derailleur is that it is at the correct height above the chain rings. Now, there is no reason why your derailleur should move up and down. So in the normal scheme of things, there shouldn't be no reason for you to change the height of the derailleur. But if you have, for example, bought a second-hand bike and you've bought a front derailleur and you're attaching it to the bike, or it's an old bike and you're servicing it and trying to get it roadworthy again, that's where you might have to adjust the height of the derailleur. But normally this is not something you would do in your day-to-day activity. The bottom of the derailleur, which is here, where my pointer is now running along that bottom of the metal part there, should sit about 1 millimeter above your large chainring, which is here. You can purchase a special tool which you can just slip in there to check the distance. You don't need to purchase that special tool. You can use a coin, a 20p piece or something like that. Other coins are available. Just to slip in an old penny, not an old penny, a 1p coin is just the right size. So that should just fit in between the bottom of the derailleur and the large chainring. As I say, it's not something you would normally need to adjust in the general scheme of things, but if you do, that's where the derailleur should sit. Where it should be bolted on your tube should mean it is about 1 millimeter above the large chainring. The next thing we want to check is that the derailleur is straight and that it's not bent either to the left or to the right hand side. Now, it's difficult to capture on the camera, and it may be that your derailleur doesn't allow of much adjustment. If it is held on by the band-on system that I explained earlier, where there is a metal band around the seat tube which you tighten up with a screwdriver, then it will be possible for you to adjust the derailleur. Again, it may get knocked out of alignment because you have an accident or a prang or something, but in the normal scheme of things you shouldn't need to adjust your derailleur in that way. What you may need to adjust on your front derailleur are the limit screws. And if you've watched my video about the rear derailleur, you'll be familiar with the concept of limit screws. And the limit screws are here and here. So there are two small limit screws on your derailleur. They will be marked H and L for high and low in the similar way as the rear derailleur limit screws are marked. You can't see the H and L on this particular derailleur because it is black on black typing. It's a little bit grubby, but believe me, it's definitely there, and it will be there on your bike, and if you can't see it, your bike probably needs a good clean. The limit screws on the front derailleur serve the same function or similar function as they do to the rear derailleur. The H higher limit screw is designed to stop the chain being thrown off the big ring and onto your right hand crank, while the L lower limit screw is designed to stop the chain being thrown off the smaller chain ring so that it lands on your bottom bracket. If you find that your chain is thrown off the small chain ring onto the bottom bracket, then you need to tighten the L, i.e. lower limit screw. If you find that the chain is being thrown off the big chain ring so that it lands down on your pedal, then you need to tighten the H limit screw. Because it's not always easy to see or to tell which is the H screw and which is the L screw, the best way to do it is to tighten each one individually and see what happens. You'll see how it affects the movement of the front derailleur in and out. In other words, towards your seat tube or away from your seat tube and towards your pedal. If I turn the pedals like so, that's my hand coming in and out of shot. If I turn the pedals like so and then change gear, the chain is now on the large chain ring. So I'll change gear and the chain drops down to the smaller chain ring. I change gear again and the chain goes up to the larger chain ring. Drop it down onto the smaller chain ring, bring it back up, and it comes back up to the large chain ring. So when I make that change, you'll see that the chain did not jump off the large chain ring, indicating that the H limit screw on this front derailleur is set correctly. And when I change down to the smaller chain ring, the chain did not jump off the smaller chain ring down onto the bottom bracket, indicating that the L lower limit screw was set correctly. As with adjustments to the rear derailleur, which you will see if you watch my video about making adjustments to your rear derailleur, the adjustments that you make to the limit screws are very small adjustments. Do not unscrew 3 or 4 or 5, 6 turns. Do not screw in 3 or 4 or 5, 6 turns. Make some gentle adjustments, and you will see as you make those adjustments the derailleur cage move in and outwards. So when you adjust the H screw, you will see it move outwards a little way. If it goes too far and it throws the chain off the big ring, then you need to tighten it down so that it doesn't do that. But the adjustments that you make to those H and L limit screws are fairly small ones. If your cable is a bit worn or a bit old and is not adjusting smoothly, there is a Bowel Adjuster for the cable tightness, which on this bike the Bowel Adjuster is near the top of the cable, quite close to the gear lever on the handlebars. The Bowel Adjuster for your gears may be in that place. On the other hand, it may be somewhere on the cable run itself. If you cannot make sufficient adjustments with that method, then you may need to tighten the cable itself where it attaches to the derailleur. And here is that cable. Here is the end of the cable, and it attaches using this bolt here. This is an Allen bolt, so it requires a hex key or an Allen key to tighten it or untighten it. So if you need to tighten it, pull the cable, undo the Allen bolt here with your Allen key, pull the cable tighter. You may need to use a pair of pliers for that, and then tighten up the bolt again. If you have the normal derailleur setup, or standard derailleur setup, if you like, you will have a double chainring at the front. Here is the larger chainring, and then there's a smaller chainring inside it. And then you will have a cassette with a number of cogs at the back of your bike attached to the rear wheel. And if you have, for example, a 10-speed cassette, which means you have 10 cogs, and then you have 2 chain rings at the front, then you have in theory 20 different gears that you can use. In practice there is some overlap, so there isn't quite 20 gears, but you see the kind of principle I'm talking about. Another reason why you don't have actually 20 gears is that you should not have the chain on the large chain ring running to the largest sprocket at the back, nor should you have the chain on the smallest chain ring at the front running to the smallest sprocket at the back. The reason why you should not do that is that it forces the chain to stretch side to side more than it is really designed to do. It will generally do it, but you should avoid doing it if you can. The other reason why you should avoid doing it, apart from wear on the chain, is that it will inevitably lead to rubbing on the derailleur cage, because the gap in the derailleur cage is not sufficient for the chain to stretch from side to side in both instances and run smoothly within the cage. So if you are experiencing too much rubbing on your front derailleur, it may be because you are trying to run the chain from the large chainring to the large sprocket at the back, or the small chainring to the small sprocket at the back. And as I say, you should avoid doing that. So to sum up, if you are experiencing problems with your front derailleur, the first things you should check is that the height of the derailleur is correctly set, and that it is running or that the derailleur is installed straight. It's not bent or twisted from side to side. It's very unusual for that to happen, but if you've had a crash or an accident, it might have knocked it out of shape. The second thing you should then check is your H and L limit screws to make sure they are properly set and not throwing the chain off the chain ring either at the big chain ring or at the small chain ring. And then you should look at adjusting the cable tension using your Bowel Adjuster. After you've done all those things, checked all those things, run through the gears a number of times, apply some lubricant to your chain, and you should find that everything runs smoothly. It is probably more likely that you will need to adjust your rear derailleur more often than you will need to adjust your front derailleur. So it would be a good idea to watch my video about making adjustments to your rear derailleur. And there you have it. That's how to make adjustments to your front derailleur. Now, as I say in the video, it's more likely that you'll need to make adjustments to your rear derailleur, so it's probably a good idea to watch my video in this sequence, which you can find on how to make adjustments to your rear derailleur. But apart from that, it's a fairly straightforward process, as far as these processes ever are fairly straightforward. You don't need much in the way of tools. You do need a screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver. You do need an Allen key if you need to make adjustments to the bolt that hold your derailleur to your frame. And it's quite useful, well, it's pretty important actually, that you have a pair of pliers, because if you need to pull the cable up and then tighten the bolt, you really need a pair of pliers in order to do that. But they should be fairly basic tools that you have around in your garage or your workshop or under your bed or wherever it is that you keep your tools. I will do a separate video on useful tools for the fairly average mechanic to have in their toolbox, so make sure you watch out for that. I hope you're enjoying these little videos. If you are, please hit the subscribe button, which you can see down below. Please give me a thumbs up. Please click please click the little bell, which will send you an email. Is it an email or a text? It's some kind of notification anyway that tells you when I upload a new video, because you won't want to miss them. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. You've been watching Bicycle Maintenance with a Fairly Average Mechanic. Please watch the rest of my videos and see you next time.